Hey guys, Professor Shambler here. If you'd like to skip my yapping on need versus want gachas, head over to the timestamp you see on screen to get to the guide part of the video. Thanks, and enjoy! Hey class, anyone know what a want gacha is?
Pokemon Go?
No. A want gacha is a gacha that is generous enough to allow players to pull however they see fit. This includes, but is not limited to, easy to acquire currency rates, soft and hard pity functions, generous events and anniversaries, and easy to acquire materials to build characters with.
Like Raid Shadow Legends?
Or it's a game that offers gameplay with high player agency that allows a player to pull for who they want and use in the content provided.
Wait! Whoa. What's player agency?
Player agency will be touched upon more in the examples later. Now, onto need gachas. A need gacha is a gacha that is typically not generous to the player base with its currencies or other means of acquiring materials. Poor RNG, time gates, and a lack of proper pity system will especially hamper free-to-play players. Need gachas also tend to lack player agency. This means that content is designed in a way that incentivizes players to pull frequently to keep up the fear of missing out. In these gachas, the free-to-play should focus more on what they need to pull versus what they want to pull. Now to move on to our examples. Despite its lack of generous material acquisition, time gates, and poor RNG, Genshin Impact, another hoyoverse game, is in fact a want gacha. Its younger brother honkaistarrail might be more generous, however Genshin Impact has it beat by being one of the most high agency gacha games out there. Its freedom of movement is one of the most important designs that lead it to being a want gacha. Having the ability to dodge at the cost of stamina allows the player to duck, dodge, and weave around all enemies provided you have the skill to do so. This skill ceiling allows players to even participate in the hardest content with solo characters, usually at high investments, or teams of their favorites. One of the most popular high-functioning teams out there is comprised of four 4-star characters that are easy to come by as a free-to-play player. Titled the National Team, this team allows even the most casual player to tackle the hardest content available despite a lack of skill. This means players are free to pull for whom they want in most cases. If you've made it this far, can you figure out the example we will be using for a need gacha?
Honkaistarrail?
That's right! Despite it being more generous in time, currency, and RNG, honkaistarrail is a need gacha. What it makes up for in generousness, it lacks greatly in player agency. The game's overworld simply exists to move the player from one point to the next, and the meaningful gameplay found in the game is the turn-based combat. Since the game's combat is focused more on strategy and number crunching, this puts more importance on what units you have, how much you've invested in them, and in what party composition. This means that the timeline for character viability will be much more volatile. Even now, many characters have been power crept in the DPS category despite the game's age being fairly young. So, with a lack of input skill ceiling, combined with an auto mode, honkaistarrail leans heavily on its numbers game. This means the treadmill of chasing higher and higher number characters will likely never end. Fear not! There is a solution to this dilemma. That's where our guide comes in. Here, we will show you a strategy that works for new, returning, and old players alike. This will help you create account strength moving forward so that you can change honkaistarrail from a need gacha to a want gacha. Now, class dismissed!
Being free to play in any gacha is tough. This is even tougher in a need gacha like Honkai Star Rail. where the player doesn't spend money. What they do spend is time, and your time is valuable. Whether you're an ultra casual or, you have the opportunity to sink a few hours in here and there, at the end of the day, how you spend your time determines how successful you'll be in the game. Don't forget, whales spend quite a bit of money to pass content. Big content creators spend both time and money. This guide is aimed at true free-to-play players and will be about maximizing your resources so you aren't wasting too much of your time. With the release of Ranmei, you likely have heard many large content creators talk about the double DPS meta or team compositions.
Yeah, and you're lying to me if you have less than 2 DPS 5 stars built.
And despite its viability, it is also an F2P trap. In a need gacha, the first characters to get power creep are usually the DPS. This means if the F2P is invested in not 1 but 2 DPS, you'll likely find your time will be going to waste, because both of those DPSs will be later power crept in the game's life cycle later on. So instead, a better approach to team building was created. The term hypercarry is thrown around a lot when describing this solution. However, let's give it a different name. Double support, or a team with 2 of the 4 slots being used for support units, one of which being a sustain, something for healing and such. This seems like a pretty good strategy for the F2P success. The name comes from the fact that it's the supports carrying the team, not the replaceable DPS. Investing in a good support core is key to succeeding in a need gacha, as supports tend to alter the meta of the game completely or just change the gameplay significantly. I mean, let's look at Ranmei or Sparkle's coming out soon. And those characters tend to avoid power creep later, or heck, not even at all, and just bypass the radar. This means investing in these characters will both help you save time and resources, but also lead to flexibility for your DPS of choice. The flexibility of your DPS choice as a free-to-play is very important. For starters, the game mechanics reward the player with choosing the right damage type for the occasion. This means with a double support core, the F2P player simply needs to pick the right color of DPS and follow suit by, just supporting them with that very same core. The strength of the double support also means that less investment is needed on these DPS characters, as the bulk of the strength or buffs will come from those very same supports that you've built up. That means less time farming for those without the time and more materials saved for the characters you do want to build. That brings up the second point of flexibility, getting to use what you want to use. Having good enough game-breaking supports will allow you, the F2P player, to use whatever character you want in that DPS slot, meaning the double support structure allows honkaistarrail to become a want gacha over time.
Hey, if you skipped or not, you might be thinking,
What am I gonna do?
on my segment, I'll be showcasing you different support cores. That would be the ones for you to use for the characters you would want. If the character you want are sustain or support or debuffers, you can easily slot them in with your teams, unlike the DPS, which will get power crept. And they're the characters that you will most likely want to replace due to enemy weakness. And as we said before, your supports are your most flexible units to invest in. If you'd like to know team builds on your 4 stars you want to use,
Where's the whole video, huh?
and also how to build your characters, make sure to subscribe and click the bell to know when I'm live so you can get on chat and I can help you out. Free to play or not, I'd be glad to help. The Buffet Core. This core star of the show will be Sparkle and her ability to give extra skill points. Paired with another skill point efficient support, your DPS like Dill, or Argenti, or Qingshui, as well as other skill point hungry DPS, the grandest of platters, so they could keep on dishing more damage. The core. This core star of the show will be Topaz. Even though it says that she is a hunt character, she is actually quite the enabler for other follow-up DPS. Using her skill, and Ruan Mei as your second support, which makes teams with double damagers to shine, and your enemies won't be able to stand up after follow-up after follow-up. The core. This core star of the show will be Ruan Mei for her amazing break effect, but also her double DPS damage amping for your DOT characters, which always should be having a Kafka and another color-picked DOT character, but the most likely thing to do in the near future is to have Kafka with the bread and butter core.
God, it's so good.
Most hated yet most efficient support core of them all, which is amazing for the newer players who don't have much of the newer units. All supports will shine in this core, and they will both pump damage to your husbando or waifu no matter what. Ultimately though, it is up to you as the player to play however you want. Either follow our guide or someone else's. The most important thing for you is to have fun.